Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today we're taking a look at Warface Breakout. It's a tactical 5v5 shooter for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that's available now. It blends the old school combat and design philosophy of Counter-Strike with modern FPS gameplay. Click on the links in the video description to get the game. There's a lot to talk about with this game, but first I'd like to thank the developers My.Games for sponsoring this video. So, what is Breakout all about? Well, at its core, it's the classic defuse, aka search and destroy game mode that we've seen in many of the tactical FPS games on PC. It's 2 teams of 5 fighting over control of bomb sites on tightly designed maps. There's no respawns and there's multiple rounds. Every round starts with a buy phase and you build up the funds to buy better weapons as you play through the rounds. The more often you win rounds and get kills, the faster you make money. You can choose from handguns, SMGs, shotguns, assault rifles, and sniper rifles. Each category has a handful of guns to choose from, all with their own strengths and weaknesses, as well as an appropriate cost. You can also buy armor and grenades. Beyond that, rounds come down to your skill as a player and your ability to coordinate with your team. There's no overpowered kill streaks or goofy abilities. This is a pure shooter built from the ground up. Now, as you'd expect in a defuse mode, one side is trying to plant a bomb and the other is defending the bomb sites. In Breakout's case, the Wardens are the defenders and the Reapers are the attacking team. Killing everyone on either team wins the round, assuming the bomb isn't planted. If it is, whichever team successfully defuses or detonates it wins. The game mode is extremely straightforward and it will be instantly familiar to anyone who's played a competitive FPS before, and it allows you to focus on your skills as a player instead of worrying about, say, complicated map design or needing to learn ability counters. Now, speaking of the maps, they've all been built from the ground up to suit Breakout's competitive design. Having played most of the launch maps myself, I can say none of them feel out of place or like they're imbalanced. Each map has a distinct look, but the overall feel and navigation is pretty familiar from map to map. Unlike a lot of tactical shooters, you can also jump and climb to reach new paths and areas throughout the map. And although there is certainly some nuance to the general movement and navigating the maps, I don't think it's going to be a game where you have to spend hours practicing special jump spots to get into crazy areas of the map. Most of it seems pretty straightforward. Now, when it comes to the feeling of the actual gameplay, movement is a bit slower paced to accommodate for controller input. You can sprint for a limited duration, and the type of weapon you're holding affects your movement speed. This puts a big emphasis on clean movement so you can get to your destination as quickly as possible, hopefully beating out your enemy to the good camp spots. Now, personally speaking, I think the movement speed worked really well on console. Since controllers operate a little bit different from PC, the movement speed seemed to line up perfectly with reaction times and accuracy that you can get from dual analog sticks. The gunplay is solid as well. Competitive focus shooters like Breakout will always have a crazy meta players discover that needs to be nerfed, but in my time with the game, none of the weapons aside from, say, burst fire assault rifles and SMGs seemed more powerful than intended. The developers were also aware of how strong some of these weapons were and probably already nerfed them. All the guns do seem to perform as you would expect them to. Pistols require precision headshots, SMGs are really lethal in early rounds but falter against high armored targets, assault rifles are great for mid-range fights, and the sniper rifles are powerful at range and holding down alleys but can falter in close quarters. In total, the game has over 30 weapons, and it's likely the devs will add more in the future to expand the variety of options. As for the team play and general flow of a match, Breakout hits all the right notes. There's no hand-holding done by the game, like constantly telling you where to go or what to do. It's just you and your teammates left to figure out where the enemy team is going and how to stop them every round. But even with the heavy emphasis on teamwork, you can still shine as an individual player. The guns are lethal enough that taking out a couple of enemies is doable even under dire circumstances. And the grenades work very well as cheap utility items. If you throw a frag near an enemy, it's a pretty safe bet that they're going to get seriously injured or even die. This makes the skilled individual particularly lethal, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of rounds where one player gets an ace. Now, the real draw of Breakout for me is that it's the first 5v5 tactical FPS that feels built from the ground up for consoles. There's been a lot of talk about certain PC games having tons of potential as a tactical shooter if they were ported to the console, but so far there really hasn't been a major developer to put their faith in that notion. Breakout fills that void without a doubt, and it does it cleanly. It also bucks the current trend of aggressively monetizing everything you do. Like I said at the start of the video, Breakout is a paid title that offers the majority of its content for free through the gameplay. They're doing free seasonal events with unique cosmetics and themed content instead of quarterly paid battle passes. You can still buy specific cosmetics directly if you want, but there's no pay-to-win weapons or items to worry about. All the weapon sites are unlocked from the get-go, so no grinding XP or buying shortcut packs. The focus truly is on the core gameplay, and that is honestly very refreshing in any game coming out these days. Breakout wouldn't work if some players didn't have magnified optics for their sniper rifle or specific weapons unlocked. That's something that I think a lot of games struggle to balance out right now. But it's a total non-issue for Breakout. You have immediate access to the exact same loadout as every other player in the match. The only difference is what side of the map are you playing on and what cosmetic stuff do you have unlocked. Now, sometimes gamers can be a little contentious when one game borrows a lot of ideas from another game, but Breakout wears its influences on its sleeve like a badge of honor. Instead of trying to pretend like it's reinventing the wheel, it highlights the things you're familiar with from other tactical shooters. It encourages you to translate your experience from other games over to itself. The characters don't walk around having conversations that hint at a deeper lore. They're military tough guys that only communicate useful info. It's actually kind of refreshing not having characters constantly barking out random stuff about their life in a competitive game. When it comes to things like visibility, it's solid across the board. Some of the maps feature darker areas that player models can blend in with a little bit, but it's nothing crazy. And despite having a bunch of cosmetic options for player models, it's also extremely clear who's on which team. Now, as for how viable Breakout is as a competitive game, I think it makes a perfect fit for console. If it were on PC, I would expect different design choices to try and differentiate itself from its competitors. But overall, I think it's the right starting point for a new competitive shooter on console. Nothing stands out as broken or illogical. Breakout seems like a very approachable yet hard to master kind of game with the biggest emphasis on gunplay. And it's not so hardcore that regular people that just want to play a few rounds are going to be immediately turned off by it. But at the same time, it's not going to let you win a firefight that you don't earn on your own. You got to learn those gun mechanics and the map knowledge. If you're primarily playing games on console and want to dip your toes in the tactical FPS scene, I think Breakout is going to be a great starting point. Its focus on the basics of the genre and how well it executes on them makes it a good representation of tactical shooters on the whole. It also doesn't give up a lot of modern features for the sake of gameplay. The gun and character models have a lot of detail. Their animations are also straightforward and easy to read without looking like stick figure animations. The maps aren't super complex in their general layout of visuals, but they still look like modern levels from a current title. The developers are also committed to supporting the game post-launch. After launch, they'll be adding more maps to the game to round out the experience. The seasonal events I mentioned earlier are planned to add cosmetic content to the game to keep things fresh. At the end of the day, I think there's a really big opportunity for the console market to make a great tactical shooter with emphasis on gunplay over all else. There haven't really been a lot of attempts to do this. It's easier to market a game that has lots of flashy abilities and crazy colorful things happening all the time, but to make a truly tactical game is sort of a lesson in reduction, and I think that Breakout has done it well. So if you guys are interested in the game, it's available now on Xbox and PlayStation 4 for $19.99. Go check it out. There's a link in the video description. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.